is up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Guarani Vision, the first ever podcast dedicated to Paraguayan football in English. As always, I'm Roberto Rojas, and joining me my two great co-hosts, Fede, Perez, and Ralph Henna. And guys, it is finally the episode that we've been waiting for ever since this podcast started 6 years ago. And for us as Paraguay fans, 16 years in the making. Paraguay are back at the World Cup this week. They will kick off their World Cup campaign, their ninth overall, as they take on the United States over there in Los Angeles on Friday night. Obviously, it's a big events that's going to happen and have the entire world watching. And we are here to analyze it as we always do, heading into this game, the game against Turkey, then the game against Australia. We're going to talk about what we're going to see from this team, who we should play, what's going to happen, all that kind of stuff. And, I guess to start off here, Fede, I'll go to you, and, to really go into this. How are you feeling, man? I mean, literally, I know it's the most simplest question I can think of at the minute, but how are you feeling now? Literally 71 hours, 73 hours until that first game in Paraguay. I'm already thinking of that game. I was watching a video of the national anthem being played to test it out at SoFi. I'm just thinking that's gonna hit hard on Friday. That's gonna hit hard for a lot of people when you hear that anthem and you see the players come out for that game against the US, a huge occasion. I mean, for you, Fede, I'm sure the country is getting ready for what hopefully will be one of the best months in their recent history, at least in sporting history.
Hi, Roberto. Hi, Ralph. Great to be back with you guys once more to talk about the national team and the preview of this World Cup group stage. Mainly, that's what we're going to talk about the first three games of this World Cup. Hopefully, we can talk about many, many more if they get through, right? Dreams do come true. Finally, we're back in this World Cup. Dreams do come true also for us, right? That we thought when we started this podcast, hey, hopefully, eventually, we can talk about a World Cup. Hopefully, we can eventually cover a World Cup. And for you guys, it's going to be very special because you're going to have it right there in the US. For me, it's going to be special because I'm going to be here in the country. I'm going to live it with all the Paraguayans. We actually had, I believe, a little bit of that taste of what the World Cup is going to be in this last friendly that we had just a couple of days ago. I was telling you guys off the air that people are going crazy here just for that game, for just to say goodbye to this team, the farewell before they went to the US, before they headed to California. But the streets, everybody wearing their jersey, everybody having a good time, the mood. I'm actually feeling really good, Roberto, because I'm so confident just hearing Alfaro, just hearing all these great news about everybody pretty much being fit. We only have one doubt pretty much heading into this first game. But everybody's fit, everybody's 100%, and that's what you want, right? Before the first game, to have everybody on the same page, to have everybody motivated. And we've seen some impressive images during these last couple of days of just fans going crazy in that game against Nicaragua, and also seeing the bus head into the airport. I mean, there were so many people, just thousands of people trying to get a glimpse at their players, try to say goodbye to their players, and just give them their support. It's just been pure passion. I think Paraguay is already living this World Cup since last week. As we're heading into these first couple of games, it's going to be very special here in Paraguay. We're already partying, Roberto, because we feel really confident about this team.
Really is, Ralph. You and I have been following this team for quite a long time. We've seen celebrations and obviously disappointments from this team. And making a World Cup is such a huge event. I think it obviously, as we've said, it really is something that kind of helps the reputation of a whole country. And what we saw, like Fede had said, those celebrations, for the friendly against Nicaragua, the fans on the street when the bus was pulling in through the streets of Asuncion, heading into the Defensores, and then later heading to the airport and seeing all the sort of videos and messages. I mean, one of them was also from air traffic control, all those sort of things that are going on. I mean, it kind of felt as this could be hyperbole, but it's just something that I thought of. It's almost as if you're sending a team to war, because it really feels that way. You are sending a team to represent an entire country against the world, basically. Because and I feel that, Fede, yeah, you're right. I think that confidence from everything that's going on, all the energy that we've gotten in the last couple of years, now the time to really demonstrate to themselves that, hey, they can play and they can test up against the world.
Yeah, that's right. Hi guys, and great to be back after a vacation and happy to see how you guys have been holding it down with the previews and with everything going on. So people that haven't checked that out, go check that out. on our YouTube, on Spotify, on everywhere. And yeah, I mean the fireworks in the game, the mosaic, the people on horseback like following the team. There's just been so much kind of energy and hype around Paraguay as they go off, and we've seen it now from all kind of the fans and from everybody involved with the team. And now we're just waiting to see those fireworks on the pitch, right, in the opening game. So it's all now boiling down to this kind of moment and kickoff time. And I'm sure you guys are the same, that the anxiety is there. We're like just counting down the hours until kickoff against the US, and is a very exciting time. And I think this is exactly what Gustavo Alfaro planned for, right? He decided to do the friendly just 1 week before. So it's a very short time, like 1 week before the game itself, to still be in Paraguay and then have to do the long flight to California. And so there were maybe possible critics of that, like, are you not doing enough preparation in the US? Should you be there earlier? But I think we saw the reason behind it, right? We saw that great outpouring of emotion from all the fans, but then also the players got that time with their families. They got to say goodbye. And Roberto, you said it, like going out to war, this idea of this is really like, it's almost like the send off to soldiers as they go off on the train that you might see from old movies. So, I mean, all of the emotions there. And I think everything is, the foundation is there now for the Paraguay team. And now we're just waiting to see what comes out on the pitch on Friday in SoFi Stadium.
Yeah, it's going to be huge. And, certainly, that game against Nicaragua is such a party affair. But obviously, we do have to talk about kind of the big elephant in the room that kind of hampered that night was, of course, the injury to Julio Enciso after 20 minutes. The report suggested that Alfaro had actually wanted him to be off just for a few minutes even before that. Fed, I think in the 10-minute mark, he was already feeling something. But then he was stretchered out in tears, and people assumed the worst. People thought, okay, maybe his World Cup is gone. Maybe he'll miss the group stage. And a lot has changed in the last couple days ever since, that game in the Defensores to now training over there in San Jose. Rumors suggest that he might be back for the game against Australia. He might be back for the game against Turkey, maybe even against the US. That's still not technically out of question. I'm sure we're going to see in the next few days what comes from the training session, of course, from Alfaro as well. I'm sure he's going to have to answer some of those questions about his availability. But it was a scary sight from what we saw over there in the Defensores Fede, but thankfully it wasn't as bad as people assumed it would be.
It was quite a moment, though, right? I mean, heading into those first minutes of this game after, that whole preview, getting emotional for our guys. And then you saw Julio and Ciso go down, guys. I mean, I was watching the game in a public place, and trust me, everybody just grabbed their heads. They were just watching the TV and just waiting for a sign from their star, and they didn't get a good sign. He started even crying, and you saw as the time went by, he just had to get off the field, right? And he tried to come back. He tried to play again. And I was thinking to myself, no, please don't do this anymore. Get out of there. Let's forget about this friendly. Let's just put some music on and let's go play against the U.S. I don't want this anymore. And he wasn't the only one that was having physical problems at the beginning of the game. I saw several players touching their feet, touching their legs. Apparently they were feeling everything that they've been putting into this preparation heading into this first game. Obviously, it's not the same turf where they were playing, and then they headed into this Defensores del Chaco. I don't know if that had something to do with it also. Obviously, this whole emotion around about playing the World Cup in a player like Julio Enciso, it could be also one of the situations. It could be something that went into this injury. Thankfully, it's not an injury as of right now. It's just something that they need to get through in just a couple more days, a couple weeks. He'll be 100%. We already saw him touching the ball again. So after the injury happened, after this whole episode during the friendly, it's all just been good news. And we've seen Julio so happy. And when you see him smiling, it's because everything is heading the right way. So we're definitely going to be able to enjoy Julio Enciso eventually in this World Cup. I don't know if it's going to be in the first game because there could be some sort of risk to put him on, but we are going to see Julio Enciso. And that's the good news, right? That thankfully we're not counting anybody out heading into this first game, and there was no late call, and Julio Enciso is heading to his first World Cup. I think I'm still sweating with the situation, Rob. I don't know how you handle it, but I was watching that and I was having flashbacks with other players that unfortunately have missed World Cups for Paraguay. We all know what happened with Cabañas in the last one. So we want Julio to be there, and thankfully, fingers crossed, we're gonna see a lot of Julio Enciso in this World Cup.
Yeah, it was a huge scare when obviously he was in tears and he went off on a stretcher, so you didn't see him walk off, right? So nobody really knew what might have happened. But once we saw him training again on Monday and he was training with the ball, he was apart from the main team, right? So he's obviously not fully fit, but the fact that he's running, training with the ball means like his recovery is pretty far advanced. And I think so that's kind of given us a lot of relief because what we didn't want was a tournament where we don't get to see any of Enciso. Of course, he will probably miss this first game against the US, but we still have him for what will be, I think, the key games going into Turkey and Australia. And I mean, I guess the big question now is assuming he's not going to be able to start against the US and assuming that Alfaro was always going to build his team or his attack at least around Enciso, because who else would you build it around? The question is who comes in now. So in the game itself, he came off and I think Mauricio came on for him. And for me, Mauricio seems like maybe the most natural fit at the moment to use in that position. He also started Kaku in that game, in that friendly, but I think we've seen it in previous matches, right? That Caco Romero doesn't really give the tactical stability to be a starter for Paraguay. He's more someone that could come on if you're looking for a result, if you need him. So I get the feeling it could be Mauricio that's going to come in. He's a different type of player to Enciso. He's not going to really run at defenders the same way Enciso does, but I think he does have that quickness of feet. He does have that technical ability in the final third that they might want to use him and have him partner with whoever ends up being up front, which will probably be Sanabria, but we will see what Alfaro goes with. But I think that's a big question right now. If Encisa's not going to play, who's going to be that person that fills that gap?
Fede, do you think Mauricio's impressed you enough for him to get that start?
The thing is, we played against Nicaragua, guys, and they pretty much gave us the ball. We had the game totally for ourselves, and they didn't even play, to be honest with you guys, right? They had one shot at goal, I think, during the whole match, not much more than that. I mean, we held them off during the whole game. That's why I even think Kaku started the match, right? I mean, in a normal situation, I don't think you're going to start any game with Kaku during the World Cup. I think you can have him in eventually in there when you need to handle the ball, when you need to play more, when you need to attack even. But I don't think that's going to be a strategy from the get go, right? In this game against the U.S., for me, it's down to two names. I don't even put Mauricio in this situation, even though I think he can actually play in there and he can give us something. I don't think it's the game for Mauricio. I think it's the game for a fast player. I think it's to play them on the counter attack and to hit them in that. And for me, it's there's just two names for that. It's Ramon Sosa or it's Gustavo Caballero. And Gustavo is the one that I think fits even more or fits better in there. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets the call up. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets the starting role. Just because I do think we're going to give the U.S. the opportunity to have the ball more. They're going to take it away from us if we don't give it to them anyways, because they have a strong midfield and they're going to try to go all out from the first minute in this game. So, just assume what's going to happen in the game, play your strategy, play on the counterattack and hit them with a Caballero that hopefully can score also, because that's been something that he's been having trouble with. Our strikers have trouble with that. Tony Sanabria also. I'm thinking of just the way we're going to start. Then we can start thinking about your second strategy. If you got to start going all out in the second half, if you want to go out for the result, if you're going to play for a tie, which is what I believe is Gustavo Alfaro might aim for in this first game. So I think he's going to be smart about it, guys. I mean, this gives you an opportunity to change up the attack. And the way that I see it, Caballero is the best fit if Enciso can't play.
Interesting. But Ralph, who would you pick then? I guess if we're gonna go for this lineup that that we're gonna take on the United States, I mean, who would you want in that attack then if you have to choose?
Well, I think you still start with Sanabria. I think Sanabria has always been the player from the start that can give you maybe just a bit more mobility and options in there. For sure, Miguel Almiron. Almiron has been one of Alfaro's star performers, right? For as much as he's maybe not had a great return to Atlanta, he's always played very well under Alfaro. He's done exactly what he needs from that kind of player in that he can defend, but then he can also bring the ball forward in the counterattacks. And so from my end, I would probably yeah, I'm between Ramon Sosa and actually Mauricio because it's two different styles of players, right?
Mhm.
Ramon Sosa is going to bring much more in terms of pace and he can play on the outside. But I feel like if you already have Almiron, maybe you want someone with a bit more control, and then you might look for Mauricio because the big problem Paraguay had against the US in the friendly was they were unable to really play through the US. They found it a bit difficult. So the option is either for Alfaro to say, okay, we're not going to be able to play through them. Let's just try and get balls directly into the channels. And then I would use Sosa or Caballero, but I'm thinking more Ramon Sosa. Um, or it's like, okay, how do I control or have a little bit more control in attack and not always be relying on counterattacks. And then maybe it's somebody with a bit more technical ability and go for Mauricio. So I'm between Mauricio and Ramon Sosa. If Caballero does get in, by the way, it's just one of those incredible stories, right? He's one of those people that maybe a year ago, or definitely at the Copa America, he was nowhere near contention. You would never have considered him to be in the World Cup. Similar to Alexandro Maidana, left back, right? These are two guys who have come from pretty much playing in small clubs in Paraguay. Well, no offense to the Guarani, but Caballero was in Ameliano and Nacional, and Maidana in Guarani, and suddenly like these are two players that might start in the first game against the US. It's an incredible story.
It really is, Fede. It really is an incredible story. And I think anyone who, like we had talked about last week in our preview of the players, I think they all kind of deserved making that. And, Mauricio, certainly he chose us instead of Brazil. He has something to sort of a statement that, hey, you're going to make your first ever start for Brazil, for Paraguay at the World Cup. That's a dream come true. Same for Caballero if he gets it as well. And of course for Ramon, you remember Ramon, it kind of feels full circle. He was the guy we started with in our first ever qualifier of the campaign against Peru. He had so many chances. Just imagine if he gets that golden opportunity to start at the World Cup 3 years after that night in Ciudad del Este.
Yeah, I trust Ramon. I think he has the quality for it. I think he went through, just different stages of his career also. He's been tested in the Premier League. He's been doing wonderful things lately for Palmeiras, playing consistently, even more than Mauricio lately, heading into this World Cup in that team. And, he plays there with a center forward that moves a lot around, which is Lopez, that's going to play also for the Argentine national team. And you're seeing him, not so much on the side, not so much playing along the line, but now you're seeing him even more as a striker in this Palmeiras. So he's definitely changed his way of playing lately. So we'll see how they fit him in this team. I think he's going to get more minutes than people thought he would during this World Cup just because of his current status. That's what I believe, this game against Nicaragua was really important for, to see how Tony Sanabria is, to see just how Ramon fits in this team, like Mauricio also, to see what Kaku can bring to this team, because I heard Alfaro talk before in that press conference before this friendly, and he said, one of the players that he highlighted it was Kaku, and he's saying this guy is killing it in pretty much every practice, and it comes down to that also. I mean, the World Cup is very short; it's a short tournament, so it has to do with just the way that the coach sees everybody right now, just how nervous is everybody heading into these games, but also just how good they are right now with the ball and in their level individually. Those players might get the opportunity to have more and more minutes than we would have thought heading into this tournament. And Mauricio could be one of those. Ramon also. I believe there are a lot of players that got ready for this World Cup. They prepared for this tournament and they want to surprise Alfaro. They want to make his job a little bit harder, trying to get more minutes.
Absolutely. And the other one that we obviously have to talk about is one of the big debates that has been going on all year, ever since Paraguay qualified for the World Cup. the goalkeeper. I mean, that's something that, it feels like eventually it's going to be ended because Gustavo Alfaro did say in his press conference after the game, he knows who he's going to pick. He has decided his goalkeeper. We don't know who it's going to be. So we obviously have to make it a guessing game. Ralph, I'll go to you first. But ultimately, it's Roberto Gatito Fernandez, it's Orlando Gil, or it's Gaston Almeida. We saw Gatito and Gil play the friendly. Gaston was the only player not to play that squad. That game, people assumed that maybe that was the reason he would go in. Then we see rumors of Gatito being the main guy. It feels like it's so open in the air, but without knowing Alfaro's answer at the time of recording, who do you think starts against the US on Friday?
Oh, it's such a tough question because like you just said, right? So Gatito and Orlando Gil played. Gaston Almeida have played in the March friendly. So what we've seen really is that Alfaro has given everybody a bit of time and a bit of a chance. But in none of those situations could you really say 100% like this goalkeeper has made their case and they are definitely going to be the starter. Going back to March, I mean, I feel the fact that Olveda played having and they've made the effort, right, to bring him into the squad, to have him nationalized or obviously it was his decision, but I mean they've supported that. It does seem like that would be a lot of work for then just to be a third goalkeeper. So I'm leaning towards the fact that Gaston Olveda is going to end up starting the game, um, because I can't see like all the effort just being for him to come along for the ride. And what we've really seen with Gatito the whole time is he just hadn't been playing enough at Cerro, and that's the whole reason. That's the whole reason people started shopping around, or Alfaro was looking around for another goalkeeper. Here we've also similar, like when he comes into the team, he's never given you that confidence, like, oh, he's definitely going to be my number one. I think Healy's going to be the future number one, right? You can tell he's with his age and with the other competition around him, he's probably going to be the future, but not for this World Cup. So I feel like we're going to see Gaston Alveida in there for the first match. It just seems like that's the way Alfaro has been leaning, and that's why they made the effort to bring him into this squad.
Yeah, and if it comes down to minutes played, I would say it's Gatito, right? I mean, this last friendly, you put him on, you put pretty much the whole starting team. I mean, I thought that was gonna give me some sort of suggestion heading into this first game, but Alfaro is such a tricky guy. He's been playing with this situation. He's been playing with all of us, and we have no idea right now what the order is. We don't know who's gonna start, who is the second goalkeeper, and who's the third goalkeeper. We have no idea right now, and I don't know if this is happening in any other national team that's heading into the World Cup. I think most teams know already who's going to start in their team. So I don't like this idea that much. I would have liked for him to already say it. I would have liked for that goalkeeper to already be building that confidence. But apparently, the way that he sees it, there's not much difference between the three of them. That's why he can't make up his mind that easily, right? So for me, it's a total gamble right now, guys. I have no idea who he's gonna put on. If I have to put some money on it, I would go with Gatito Fernandez because of the minutes that he has with this team, with that defense. He's the one that understands this team the most. But if it's up to individual level, from what I've seen lately in the local league, I would definitely be on Ralph's side, and I would go with Gaston Almeida. I would go for experience. I wouldn't gamble on Orlando Hill, even though I do think he is the future of this national team. I do think he's going to probably be the goalkeeper in 2030, but the World Cup is not right now, and I think it's down to Almeida or Gatito Fernandez. It's either going to be the goalkeeper from Cerro or the goalkeeper from Olimpia, the two big teams in our country.
I think we all, if we're all gonna say different answers, I think it's gonna be that cakes. I still think it could be Gil. I think Gil is the best guy for it, man. So because I think he brings you that security. He's playing in a competitive league, more competitive than Paraguay in the sense he know what it's like to play in Sudamericana. Obviously, Gaston is as well. But I feel like there is that level of security into him as well. I don't know. I maybe this is just me doing wishful thinking, but the fact that we are still disagreeing on who is going to be the goalkeeper, it's like, Ralph, like, what are we doing? What is this is a concern for us heading into the World Cup.
Well, it's more of a like a conundrum for us, the journalists on the outside looking in. But like you said, Alfaro has already made the decision, and in the dressing room, I'm guessing people are sure, right? So that's the most important thing. But yeah, for us on the outside, there's this uncertainty. And the problem for Alfaro is, of course, like if anything goes, regardless of who he picks, if anything goes wrong, there'll be question marks because from the outside, we're not seeing that certainty that he has. So I think the main thing is that we're hopeful we don't see any kind of any kind of blunders, any kind of problems. We are also hoping we don't see a 2006 situation where in the very first game, Justo Villar got injured. If you remember, like I think he was just taking a goal kick and he did his ligaments or something. And Aldo Bobadilla came in for the rest of the tournament. So we're hoping that doesn't happen as well. Paraguay's had a history of with goalkeepers of issues too, because I remember the Copa America 2007. Then somebody gets sent off. I think it's Bobadilla gets sent off against Mexico, and Zayas has to come in. So, I mean, there's been very recent history of Paraguay having to use more than one goalkeeper in a tournament. So maybe we're in a good situation that we have three that are all fighting for a position.
I guess we'll have to wait and see who is it going to be. So I guess we all are having disagreements. I mean, what else is really concerned about this team, Fed? I mean, I think we know what our defense is. I still feel very questionable Junior Alonso as the left back, but I feel like that's going to be the team that is going to be used for the World Cup. The defense, I think the midfield also speaks with itself. And Guarani coming back is a huge plus. Andres Cubas finally as well getting a chance. Hopefully, no last minute issues with no passport issues or injuries or whatever. He'll play that game. Diego Gomez, it's going to be a big World Cup for him. And then, the striker as well. I think it feels as if though we're leaning towards Sanabria. I think that's always been someone that Alfaro has fully trusted. So I think regardless of, whatever happens to the goalkeeper and who replaces Julio, I think the other nine players in theory, they all speak for itself. Almiron as well, and so on.
Yeah, what I'm feeling good about is this midfield, right? I mean, you talked about Damian Bobadilla coming back, and now we have so many alternatives with players that are really standing out in different positions that can give you different things. Obviously, if you take out Andres Cubas of the equation, that could be a little hard. I mean, to build a strong midfield without him, you're gonna have to move different players around, right? I mean, you don't have another Andres Cubas, and we talked about that several times. Unfortunately, he did not bring another strong, defensive center midfielder, and we don't have another Andres Cubas in this team. So you're gonna have to figure it out if Andres can't play a game, or if you need to take him out because he gets banged up or something like that. He's one of those players that's gonna get you the ball back, and he's gonna fight during the whole game. But if we don't have him, you're gonna have to figure it out, and I don't know how Alfaro is gonna do that in certain games. And then, obviously, talking about the forwards, I think I mentioned this before. If we need forwards, we got forwards because he ended up taking four. So I'm happy with the situation. I'm happy with the type of forwards he ended up taking. I'm happy that Pita is there because I think he can get in there and he can get in the fight. He can press high and he can be a dominate. He can dominate in that sense. And then we have two strikers that are coming in hot into this tournament, Avalos and Arce. I mean, everything they touch lately, they just score and score. And that should be something that has everybody in a good place heading into this tournament. They know that they can rely on these guys, that these guys can come in the pitch. And right now they're feeling really good about what they're doing, which is the only thing they need to do, score. That's what I'm going to wait for from Alex Arce. That's what I want to see also from Avalos. And we're going to have him in there because we know that Tony is not 100%. He's not going to play every single game. So it's either going to be two forwards eventually, or they might even come in together. I think Alfaro is going to work in that situation. I think he's going to have that second unit ready. I think we kind of saw that also in this friendly against Nicaragua, that he's starting to link up certain players when he needs to bring them on just to see if he can spark up the team or change the whole matchup around. You're gonna need that in certain games when it gets complicated, when you get scored on. It could happen against the U.S. It could happen against Australia. If we need to go all out in this in a game, we have the forwards for it, and that's something that was concerning me before this World Cup because Tony is not coming in hot. He hasn't been able to score lately. But I look at the bench and I'm feeling good. I'm feeling okay because we got Alex Arce and we got Gabriel Avalos. Those are players that can come in, and we already know what they can do, Ralph.
Yeah, and I think Alfaro was very clear with why he took the four strikers, and it's because they're going to be doing a lot of work, and that they're not going to play. I don't think we're going to see, for example, a starting striker play 90 minutes in these games. It'd be very unlikely. Like he needs Sanabria to work. He knows Sanabria probably can't do the full 90. He hasn't been playing that regularly in Serie A this season. So that's why he brought in the other strikers to do, because they're going to be doing a lot of work, a lot of that pressing, running into channels, because Paraguay's not always going to do slow build up. There's going to be more direct play. There's going to be counterattacks. So I think it makes a lot of sense. And I'm also pleased that he's gone with the four strikers. And I think what we'll see, yeah, it's gonna depend on game situation, because I think if you have a Alex Arce, he can do a bit more of the running. If you have Pita or Avalos, they can do a bit more of the bumping into the center backs, right, holding up the ball. So he's playing off those two kind of possibilities depending on where the game goes. And then I suppose the other maybe question mark is around the fullbacks, like you were alluding to, Roberto, because you said you're not sure about Junior Alonso. So if if he doesn't play Junior Alonso at left back, he would end up playing Maidana. And so the difference is Alonso is obviously much stronger aerially. He's more of a centre back. He can slot in and almost create a three, but he's not very good one-on-one, right? And he's definitely not someone that's going to go forward. Whereas Maidana is much more attacking. He's going to try and go forward. But what we've seen in the qualifiers, and I think Alfaro will keep to this situation, is he doesn't want two attacking fullbacks. So if he's going to play Juan Cáceres on one side, he's not going to play Maidana on the other side. He'll play Alonso. If he really wants to use Maidana, then he's probably going to bring in, I don't know, like Gustavo Velasquez maybe, to be more of that defensive and solid, and have like three centre backs almost, but one's operating as a fullback. So it'll either be Alonso on the left or Velasquez on the right. And that's what we kind of seen, because I think that's the only way Alfaro can trust that he only has to use Cubas. So going back to Cubas, we're only playing with one holding midfielder, not two. And so really, if he's going to use Cubas as the single holding midfielder, which he does, he needs like that extra cover from a third centre back that's operating as a fullback. So I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I think we'll probably see Alonso in the first game. He's been more his go-to, and I think he really wants to use Cáceres, because the thing about Juan Cáceres that he's brought to the team is also the deliveries, right? The crossing. He's been very important with that, either from set pieces or open play. And so I think Cáceres he gets the starting spot, which means you need Alonso almost as a counterbalance. And so that's where I'm leaning to. I don't think we'll see Cáceres and Maidana start in any of the games, unless maybe they're really chasing a win in the final group stage match.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really is a situation that you need to really, you can't fault yourself in this one. You need to go as best as you can with the best team possible. And I think it's certainly like at this point, what do you do? So I think it has to be no nonsense at this point. Like you go with the squad that you know you can trust, and then whatever happens in the next game, it all depends on how serious it was in the first game, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, especially after listening to Alfaro, right? He talked about that midfield and just trying to add more football, trying to add more possession to this team, but he wasn't convinced about it. And he said, "We tried it, we've been working on it, but that's not us right now." And I kind of felt that message the last time I heard our coach, and I think he's gonna go for the safe spot where this team feels comfortable. That's why I talked about a lot of counterattacking and just giving the ball to the opponent, give the responsibility to the US, to Turkey. They love having the ball. And we have a strong defense. We probably have one of the best defense, I believe, in this World Cup with Alderete and Gustavo Gomez. They're coming in really well. into this World Cup. They've been playing a lot together. They know each other very well right now. I'm feeling I'm feeling really well about that situation. I mean, we have our doubts on the goalkeeper, but there's no doubts on that defense, and I think we're gonna rely on them a lot, really. Even though I don't want to see the team obviously park the bus so close to their box. I want to try to see if we can fight this game or all three of the games more in the midfield. But the setup, we'll see, right? We'll see what the strategies. We'll see eventually when we start to look and try to pressure a bit higher. I do think there's going to be a lot of strategy behind these games, and Alfaro is going to pick the right moment to hit all these three teams.
And I guess we're gonna have to figure out how we go in those three games. Because obviously we have the first game. We have the first game against the United States, the opening game. Obviously, there's also still some issues in regards to how their team might set up. The biggest one is of course Chris Richards not being healthy in defense. I think that's a big blow if he doesn't make that starting lineup because I think he's such a reliable defender. They are also coming off a loss against Germany. They lost 2-1 in Chicago. The first goal actually was scored by Havertz off a set piece. And you know how good we are on set pieces, Fede and Ralph. So how do you see this one going first? I mean, Ralph, I'll go to you first on this. We saw that in November, how that gritty of a game it could be, and that Paraguay really didn't match up to the physicality. They had 7 months to prepare. What do you see in this one?
Yeah, 7 months to prepare, and Alfaro, I think, he's a guy that does his homework, and he will be picking up on what he saw in that match to try and correct where he can. But what we've seen in historically is that the Paraguay has kind of struggled in the US, not just against the United States, like in friendly games, and especially in California. I was just looking, they've played, I think, 7 games in California and only won twice, and it's El Salvador and Guatemala, and they won both games by 1 goal. So I mean, it's for me, it's looking quite tough that Paraguay go into that match and win. I can't really see them going in and winning. What I think we'll see is that Paraguay will have improved from the friendly defeat, and they'll be able to take a point away from the game. And that really, I think, is because a lot of the pressure is going to be on the US as hosts. They'll have to go out and try and take the game to Paraguay. Paraguay prefer that. I think that say US dominate possession and they can try and play on the counter. But I'm not sure if we have enough to win the match. So if I have to predict that opener, I'm going for a tie.
A tie, okay, like a 0-0, a 1-1. What are you saying?
0-0 or 1-1, either of those, because I also don't think we just talked about how good the defense is. I don't think Paraguay is going to be going through this tournament conceding twice very often. We saw a little bit in the US friendly. That was actually the third straight game they conceded 2 goals, right? Because they conceded 2 to Japan and 2 to South Korea. But that was more an experimental stage. I think now it's down to the kind of nitty gritty. I think we're not going to see Paraguay concede twice. So yeah, 0-0 or 1-1.
Fede, obviously Enciso probably won't play it. So who is the guy that's going to have to step up to make a good impression? Because, if we look at historical factors, the last time we played in a World Cup opening game, it was against the world champion. So Paraguay are not shy of playing a game against a big occasion. They've even seen that before in '86 when they played Mexico, the host. That was a big occasion. They got a draw there. They got a draw against Italy. So Paraguay know how to kind of ruin the party for either the host or defending champions in these type of games to kick off a World Cup. So who do you think has to step it up here for Paraguay to get some sort of result?
Yeah, we feel comfortable being the underdog in these kind of games, heading into the being the away team. Alfaro always handled that situation really well in the qualifiers, getting at least a draw every single time, and in very different environments and very hard stadiums. So I'm really confident about this situation of not losing this game, of at least getting a tie with a good strategy, with putting the pressure on the U.S. during the whole game, and just making them feel uncomfortable. I think this is going to be a much more physical game than it was in the friendly. This is going to be a totally different game. I mean, if U.S. fans think they're going to see the same Paraguay, no, you're not going to see the same Paraguay. You're going to see a very gritty team. You're going to see a team that's not going to let the U.S. do absolutely anything, but it's going to come down to those little details. I mean, don't even blink because the U.S. is a good team. I think they have the quality and they can make the difference and at any moment during that first half. So hopefully we have that perfect game where we don't make mistakes, where we don't let them get that first goal. But even if they score, I mean, this team has shown that they can get up from those kind of situations before, and I wouldn't be too scared if they score first. I know this team is gonna put up a fight, and they're gonna start to look at trying to get opportunities. And I think we're gonna score also in this game. So I'm heading into a 1-1 tie. I'm gonna go with a tie also. I think we're gonna get a goal in a set piece, and hopefully with that draw we can head into the second game feeling good about ourselves.
So this is the game that I have to predict, do I? Between the two countries that I know very well. Yeah, no pressure, Roberto. Um, I think Paraguay are looking very good at the minute, and they have what it takes to make a good impression. I think certainly they have always been in this World Cups in the past as the underdog, and they always make things difficult. Like if you look at it, Ralph, in World Cup history, they rarely get blown out, like losing 2-0, 3-0 rarely ever happens, if at all, at least in the modern era, not in the 50s and the 30s. But they always make it competitive for anyone that plays against them, barring a huge collapse. I don't think this is going to be the case. Having said that, I think the United States feels that the loss against Germany might come at the right time for them. So I think that they're finding that momentum. It's the big occasion. They don't want to fail their own people. And I think the U.S. have always feel like they've gotten Paraguay's number over the years. History plays a factor in that, guys. I think that's always the case. So I think, and I don't want this to happen, obviously. I would love a draw, but I think the U.S. win 2-1. I just, for some reason, I see that same result in November, that it's going to be gritty, but that the U.S. will somehow find a way to do it in SoFi. So the U.S. so in this case, they get 3 points. You guys think they get one, and for my case against Paraguay, they get zero, which means that the game against Turkey becomes the game that is literally the must win. I think the most important game of them all in terms of quality of the team. I think the U.S. obviously it's a big occasion, but I think when you look at analyzing all, I'll go to you, Fede, first. I think Turkey is the toughest side. We had a Beset to talk about Turkey out. Some people are not that convinced of them, even if they have talents like Adeguler and Kenan Yildiz and so on. So they're also feeling the occasion of being back to the World Cup for the first time. 24 years since they've been it. 2002 was the last time. So this is also a World Cup in this comparison with Paraguay, that they don't have players that know how to play in these type of tournaments. Is going to be a new occasion for them. I mean, with the inclusion of Julio Enciso back in the squad, I think it really gives Paraguay a huge boost, especially if they do come off the results of getting a draw there. They think that, look, if they can snatch a win against Turkey, that's qualification already.
Yeah, for me, this is the must win out of the three, right? I mean, obviously, against Australia, everybody's expecting for this team to win that game. I mean, I think the US and Turkey also feel, okay, no, that's the game we're going to win. Those are the three easy points. That's what everybody's saying right before playing the Socceroos. But hopefully, I think this is the game where the group could even get decided against Turkey. The second match, I mean, this is where we're going to put them against the ropes, against the US in that third game, and let them take care of each other as we head into Australia. And it could be that key match in the group. I kind of feel that situation, even though it is a different format, it could come down to the last game, and we might need a result against Australia. But heading into this group, I feel that that's the most important game, and that's the game that I want to see Paraguay play pretty much at the same level. I don't want to respect Turkey that much. I don't want to give them the ball that much because they are very technical, very good midfield. They have very exciting strikers also that are playing in very good teams. And I don't want them to have the ball in this game. So hopefully we are the better team against Turkey and we take it away from them, because if they beat us, they're going to be in the driver's seat, and then they got to play the US. So this is the game that out of the three, this is the one that I want to win the most, guys, to be honest with you. I know it would be great to stun the world beating the United States in the first game, obviously against the host team. It would be awesome. It would put Paraguay's name all over the world. Everybody would be talking about us in this group. It would give us the respect back. But for me, if there's one game that I want to beat, is beat Turkey. Don't let this team get on a high. Don't let them take it away and aim for that first spot. And if we tie the first game and then we beat Turkey, we can aim for that first spot against Australia. So that's my best case scenario.
For me, the Turkey game is likely the hardest game because I think they're ranked 22nd in the world. They're right up there. They have this quality, they have this desire to make a show at the World Cup, having been away for so long. So there's for me like a lot of pressure on this game. Is a very difficult team. The one big advantage I think Paraguay have is Alfaro over Montella in terms of tactically. I feel like maybe Alfaro could have his number and might be able to find a way to similar to what Fede's hoping for, right? Like how do you counter this team that probably is better than you on the ball and does have some well probably does have better individuals definitely going forward. And so that's where maybe Alfaro gets a number and we could pull off that shock or pull off that surprise. Because well, shock maybe is too strong a word, but it's still a surprise. We're definitely the underdogs going into that game. Um, yeah, I mean, this is very boring sitting on the fence again, but
No, but you got to do it. It's the World Cup.
I think it could end up being a tie again, but just because of the other situation that I guess I'm assuming Turkey will beat Australia. So they'll come into this game and not actually need to win to qualify because everyone knows like you're going to qualify. You can probably qualify with 3 points and zero goal difference, but 4 points you're going to qualify, right?
Yep.
So they could go into that thinking, well, we don't really need to stretch ourselves. And whereas Paraguay will be taking the game to them, but I can feel like maybe we get another score draw. So Paraguay is putting maybe more of the pressure on to then have to beat Australia. Because I do see that Turkey's definitely, I think, the best team, like I was saying, technically. The question is, I think tactically Alfaro has a bit more over them, and that's why again we can avoid defeat. I'm just not maybe as as confident that we can go out and get the win. A big decider for this is Enciso, right? If Enciso plays, then it puts a lot of favor in Paraguay's side of things.
So what are you saying? What are you saying?
I think I'm still going for a tie. So I think after this, for me, Paraguay's on 2 points because they won't lose the first two games, but they won't win them either.
Well, will they score? Because you
Yeah.
said either 1-1. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
That's fine.
I think it'll be a score draw. I think it'll
Okay.
be a 1-1. Yeah.
Fede, what do you think?
I'm going with a 2-1 for Paraguay. I think we're gonna win this one, and this is where we're gonna start peaking. This is the European team that we need to beat to feel good about ourselves heading out of the group stage because this is the only European team, just like Rafa saying, this is probably the strongest team in this group stage, and this is gonna show you just where Paraguay is for the rest of the World Cup. So this is where we need to show our best stuff.
I agree. I think this is the one where we also get the win. I'm going to say 1-0 in this one, a very gritty game. I think certainly Paraguay knows what it takes to take on these type of games against Europeans. They always feel like they always step it up, that they kind of, as crazy as this sounds, they kind of like more struggle against teams of in their own par, that when they go against teams that are just maybe a bit better is that when they go and rise to the occasion. And I think in this one, I think they can get the win there. So I say 3 points for Paraguay. Fede, you already have them on 4. Ralph, you have them on 2. So we go into basically, well, according to Fede, your team already qualified. They already qualified. So it's up to me and Ralph to decide if we join you and they qualify to the next round. And of course, that game will be against Australia, the deciding game, the game that, Fede, you say it is the must win. I think this is an absolute need to win because of it is arguably the weakest team in the group. Fede, I'll go to you first on this one. I think Australia are a really tricky team. We saw that in the past, how, they've been kind of going from Oceania to Asia. They've really become one of the best teams in that continent and that confederation. They obviously have had some surprises of being sort of the underdog and then surprising. We saw that 4 years ago when they got out of a group with France, Denmark, and Tunisia, and they gave Argentina a really good game in the round of 16. So we know what this is like, but it is a really young side. I think they are still maybe 4 years away from peaking. It is unfortunate that this team might be the one looking out and not going to the World Cup group stage. We'll know outside of the group stage if they go to the next round. Who knows? We'll see how they do against the U.S. But you have to win this one, Fede. You need to win this one. It's the last game, and if you feel like you are playing for qualification and you want to win that group, then this is the game that you want to do it too.
Yeah, if you beat Turkey, a tie is not a bad result against Australia, especially if they're up against the ropes and they really need the points. It could be that kind of battle, also, right? I think they're going to go all out in this game against us. This is probably for them the game that they probably feel that they can win, also in the group stage. And we're going to have the responsibility probably to play more with the ball. They're a very physical team. Hopefully, we get them kind of tired right after those first two games where hopefully the US and Turkey beat them out and maybe they lose one or two players and they're not going to be the same team. They don't have that many stars. And that's the difference probably with us, right? Maybe we can lose one or two guys, and the ones that will come in can also make the difference. They're going to be ready, and I think this could be that type of game where you might miss a couple of important players on your team, and you're gonna have to figure it out. But yeah, I see us getting a win, and I see us in just like I'm thinking the best case scenario heading it out of the group stage being the first team in this group, taking that spot from the US because we know that these kind of groups are staged for the host team. So hopefully we can get that first spot and we have a really good road ahead of us heading out the group stage, guys. I mean, aim for that first spot. That's what I want this team to do and beat Australia with a 1-0 and get out of that group stage without losing a single game. That just sounds great.
So you're saying they win this one?
Obviously, this is the one. If we already beat Turkey, if we already tied against the host team, I can't go with less than a win against Australia. Hopefully, they don't surprise anybody in this group because we already have enough with the U.S. and Turkey. Hopefully, they are that team that we can beat easily. I would even say, but it's not going to be easy. It's never easy in the World Cup. So I'm just going with a 1-0 win against the
So wait,
Socceroos.
who scores in this game and who scores in the game against because we also didn't even say a goal scorer. It's my bad. So, let's go back to the first game, Fed. If who's going to score against the US if you say it's a 1-1? Again, yeah, against the US.
Well, I'm actually feeling good about Miguel Almiron in this first game, even though I said it could be a set piece. If it is a set piece, it could be Alderete, it could be Gomez making the difference. But I like Almiron. I think he feels really comfortable in these kind of stages. He's been playing for so long in the MLS also, so he's not going to have any problems out there. I think he could be one of those guys that's going to make a difference. I also see Diego Gomez eventually scoring a goal against Turkey. I'm going to put him in that game to score. I'm going to put in Ciso also there in that game against Turkey. I think he's going to score. And in that last game, I want to see one of the strikers score. So I'm going to give that goal to Tony Sanabria or to Gabriel Avalos. I want to see one of the center forwards score before we get out of the group stage.
Ralph, obviously, you talk about the game against Australia, but also who you think will score if they do score against who scores in those other games as well.
Right. I mean, firstly, I share Fede's opinion that Australia is the game to win. It's uh, it's hard to say the weakest team because it's a really balanced group, but I think it's the team we have the most chance of getting the 3 points against. It's the side that's a bit younger. I think they're kind of preparing for the Asian Cup and the next World Cup. They're more in a process, right? So I do see Paraguay winning that game, and that would give us, in my prediction, 5 points, and we get through. Possibly second. I'm guessing second.
Hmm.
Although I haven't been able to, like, I'm so focused on Paraguay, I haven't been able to think about the other permutations of other teams. But yeah, I think we'll win that game 2-0, similar to the way we beat, was it Slovakia, right? Back
Yeah,
in
yeah.
2010, that was a 2-0. And then goal score as well. So I think against the US, I think it's going to be a substitute. We're going to be 1-0 down and someone's going to come off the bench and score. And I think it could be Avalos. I'm going to give it to Avalos.
Okay.
You get like almost a surprise goal scorer in your first game. In the match against Turkey, it's going to be Diego Gomez because I have a feeling Gomez has to get on the score sheet. And then in this match against Australia, I feel Enciso will be back by then, so we're going to have Enciso and Ramon Sosa scoring the 2 goals because they're going to win 2-0. So they
Fair
can,
enough. Yeah,
yeah.
no, it's interesting. I mean, obviously we have to wait and see. Again, the permutations are so big that you don't know what could happen. That, essentially Paraguay could finish between first and third, and I think that's where Paraguay will finish. I think they'll beat Australia. I think they'll win 2-0. I think for the first game where they lose, I think I agree. I think it'll be Almiron that scores that one off a set piece. Um, I think it will be Julio Enciso against Turkey in his return. And then the 2-0 win, I'm going to say Sanabria and a substitute with Gustavo Caballero. We were talking about him, but I think he could be someone that could score in this World Cup. But yeah, I guess we all say that they're all going to predict. So I guess here's the big $1 million question to finish it off here, because obviously we have to do the group and we have to wait and see. And hopefully we can come back in our next episode with Paraguay qualified, hopefully. How far can they go? How far can they go? Fede, I mean, one dreams of the World Cup. One dreams of winning that trophy that only 8 other countries in the world has ever won. And now, there is that opportunity that Paraguay could do it. It's going to be really hard, but we've seen surprises over several World Cups of teams going far. It is the beautiful game for a reason. It's so unpredictable. Anything can happen. Having said that, what do you feel is the expectation for this Paraguay team, and what do you feel is the ceiling that this Paraguay team could do where you would feel absolutely content?
Well, in my scenario, the one that I've said before, this team heads out of the group stage in the first spot, so that gives them some sort of advantage into the team that they're going to face. And
The
I
third place.
hope that they can, I hope that they can get through that situation and head into at least one more game where then we're going to definitely see a strong team. And that's where I have Paraguay. I don't know if that's where the World Cup is going to end, or that's going to be our huge challenge to see if we can get over it and really show the world that we can be one of the surprises in this World Cup. That's the game that I want to aim for. 2 games out of the group stage. I would be happy with that, especially if we get out of the group stage being first. You can't lose that game, right? I mean, so I expect them to go through at least one more stage, and that would pretty much be the same campaign that we did back in 2010. So I would be happy with that,
Well, it'd
with
be round
that
of six. It'd be,
situation.
it'd be round of 16 because they have a round of 32, round of 16 next time. So,
Yeah,
it's
I was
hard.
thinking about the amount of games, but
Ah, yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, 5 games. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's
but because it is going to be a different World Cup with this whole format, and you're eventually going to have to play or you're going to have to play more tough teams, harder teams, top of the world teams if you get out of the group stage to eventually make it to the final. So that's where I have them, Roberto. 2 more games after the group stage. Hopefully they can get through that, and we can be one of the surprises in this World Cup. But that's the challenge for this team, I believe.
no one has been picking Paraguay as a dark horse, Ralph. Everyone's saying teams like Ecuador, Colombia, Norway. Why not Paraguay? Especially if the tie favors them, because if you do say, Ralph, like they do finish second, that could mean second place against, Iran or Egypt, and then obviously round of 16. If it goes in the way that it should, it could be against Argentina, and we've played Argentina several times. We know how to beat them. So maybe sometimes it's always hard against them in a knockout competition, especially against the World Cups. The stakes are much higher. But can one dream, and can one say that, hey, they can actually do what they did back in 2010, or is that a bit more of a nostalgia sort of thing? But same question that I asked Fede, what is the ceiling for this Paraguay team, and what do you think could happen to them?
Right. Like, can they be Morocco? Can they be Turkey 2002?
South
Like,
Korea 2002 as well.
yeah, there's the kind of dreams. I mean, I think I've been talking about this on different outlets this week as well, right? Everybody wants to know our preview and where we feel. And one thing I've kept saying is if they don't get through the group stage, is a big failure. So definitely have to get through the group stage. But then Paraguay's never won a knockout game because the Japan game is actually a penalty shootout. So they've never actually been able to take the game to another team in that mata-mata, as we call it, like and really go through. I think with the expanded tournament and to your point, like the possible teams in the round of 32 gives them that chance that maybe they didn't have before. So I'm leaning more towards the last 16 finish. I mean, obviously, knockout football, anything can happen, like you say.
Absolutely. And
But
Paraguay knows what it's like to play these type of games. They can easily try to hunker it down and
they,
take it to penalties. Well, again, that's a lottery, but that's a whole different scenario. My point is that it's
yeah,
not impossible.
or in a way, they've really been playing knockout games since Alvaro took charge because really they had to win or they had to get results in so many games because they were in such a bad position to qualify. So I do feel they've earned a bit of that experience even in the long qualification stage just because of the way it worked out. But ultimately, I think the last 16 would be very respectable. It would be a good achievement, and it would be something that the fireworks and everything we saw in the send off, I think they get that on the way back if they hit the last 16. Anything after that is amazing as well. I mean, obviously, another quarterfinal appearance. Imagine when we sat here recording this show after the Copa America to then talk about Paraguay being in the quarterfinals of the World Cup.
The best eight teams in the world. Imagine that.
Yeah, just did not seem they weren't even in the best eight teams in CONMEBOL, and there's only 10, you know. So that would be something incredible. But I really think the last 16 is a very respectable finish. And if they can make that, I think that's a good tournament.
I think people also need to understand it's been 16 years since they've made this World Cup. Some people, like we said, they'll get a chance 4 years from now. Maybe some of these players won't, like Almiron or Gomez or Junior Alonso because of the age. But I think Gatito, obviously, there's some players that, it is basically their only chance at playing for the World Cup. But players like Enciso, Gomez, Maidana, and so on and so forth, they'll play in 2030 if they're healthy. They'll play on home soil. They'll get the chance to shine. And they've already qualified too. So that gives them that sort of push on that end. But that being said, I think the way I have it formatted, I have them finishing third. That probably will get them a game against Germany or France. I would love it if they get a miracle win, like you said, that would be one of the big statements in the World Cup ever. But I think it's the end of the road for them. I think getting out of the group for sure, bare minimum, absolutely. I think just because of the way that it's formatted and also the opponents that you were in a good spot. Having said that, I think once we get into the next round, in my opinion at least, I think that's where it gets a bit harder. That's when teams really, because, I think those type of games is when the strength and depth gets to you, the fitness levels. I think no disrespect to our team because we are a very competitive team, but when you're dealing with teams like Germany or France or Portugal or whatever, I think that's where it could kind of, make it difficult, or they'll find a way of using that individual talent that Paraguay does not have, or at least does not have a lot of players that can do that. And Ciso is great as he is, but basically Portugal and France and Germany, they have multiple Encisos or multiple players of that level. So it becomes a bit harder. But hey, like you said, it's tournament football. Anything can happen. So absolutely, I think the ceiling for sure is round of 16. I think that would give a lot of respect to a lot of people. If they can equal their quarterfinals one, I think that would be even better. That would be more than what anyone dreamed. I've been seeing some like predictions that people say that maybe they'll play against Spain again. Fede, imagine that. Imagine they get a quarterfinals rematch against Spain like they did 16 years ago in South Africa. Wouldn't that be something?
I'm hoping for those kind of games, right? Getting out of the group stage that we can play, just like you said, against the last world champion, against one of the teams that's aiming for the World Cup, because that's the challenge that I want to see this team go through. If we can't make it to the final, maybe we can think, okay, we were just one play away, we were just one game away from taking that next step, and that's where our mentality is going to be for 2030, because we're already qualified for 2030, guys. So it's not just about what we do in this World Cup, it's the way that this team shows its stuff and what it can do after also this World Cup. Let's not forget that Alfaro has been hinting that he wants to stay, and if this team shows him enough, maybe he will take on that project and keep on going with us heading into the next World Cup also. That would make me so happy.
Absolutely. Ralph, I think that's also the dream that people want. Like Alfaro has kind of won everyone over. We don't want that to end like that by the end of next month, do we?
Yeah, there's no need for this to end. It's been an incredible journey so far, and there's so much more to give with the team. I mean, Julian Caesar's 22 now, so 26. next World Cup. Diego Gomez, similar. We've just talked about how Alexandro Maidana has come from nowhere almost, and he's only 20. Gil, we were talking about earlier. I mean, there's so much, right? There's so much excitement around the possibilities. We have the what were the under 15s, and then they won the under 17s. You know, that there was that team that maybe some of them will start showing up in 4 years. So there's a lot to be excited about after this World Cup. And so it could well be that this becomes a stepping stone, and the kind of, oh, we were so close, we need to go one further. And I mean, just in the case, by the way, of Enciso and Gomez particularly, they were very close in the Olympics, right? I mean, there was the defeat, even though it was by 2 goals. It kind of felt like it was such a back and forth game, like, oh, maybe we could have done something in that match. And so maybe they're also thinking about, hey, we were close last time, let's go one further. So there's all that excitement to come. But but yeah, like I was saying before, I think in the knockout stages that anything could happen, and you want to get I think a big team. Remember Paraguay's history as well, right? 2010 you lost to the winners, 2002 the finalists, 98 you lost to the winners. So there's been that history of being very close, and giving the very top teams a very good game, even if we don't win them. And so that's, I think we want to see something like that again in the US in just the next few weeks, because it's that knockout game it could be very soon, right?
Now let's do two more things on dreams. I want to go on a dream scenario. Fede, I want you to be as crazy as you can be in this scenario. What happens? What would it mean if Paraguay were to lift that trophy at MetLife Stadium on July 19th?
No, we got to do another episode for that,
That's,
Roberto.
that's 12 hours long. No, but on a serious note.
No, I can't even imagine what was going to happen to this country, what the emotions that we're going to go through before even getting to that game. I mean, people are getting ready for a huge tournament, but I don't know if they're expecting their team at all to make it to those latter stages. You can say it out loud, you can mumble it with your friends, but reality is just totally different out there, and the World Cup usually goes to the big teams. So to have Paraguay in those latter stages, I can't even imagine what would happen to the country. I don't know the emotions that I would go through either. So if we get out of the group stage, like I'm predicting on that first spot, I'll start making promises, Roberto. I'll start dyeing my hair blue or something like that, because we're
Red,
gonna
white, and
have
blue.
those.
Red, white,
Yeah,
and blue.
we're gonna start going all crazy. I'm telling you, man. People are gonna go all out here. They're gonna start making huge promises. We might have people fly from Paraguay directly to the U.S. and just leaving everything behind. Love football, and they're so passionate about it. We saw it in this last friendly, and I know they're gonna live it in such a particular way during this whole World Cup. So no, I can't even imagine that scenario right now. I can't imagine it yet.
Ralph, there are
The
three scenarios.
president,
I'm about to
the
say there's three
president's
scenarios.
always, he's already like giving days off or moving around the days off for these group games, right? So if Paraguay was to get to the final, I mean, there'd be like a week of no work, of holidays, right? Of
Well, there's
celebration.
three scenarios that Paraguay have never been to at a World Cup: a semifinal and a final, and being champions. So that's that thing. But Ralph, same question to you. What would a World Cup title mean for the people of Paraguay?
No, it'd be. I mean, imagine that the Paraguay still lives off, I think, very much like 79 in the Copa America. I mean, that's still a big deal. The heroes of 79 are often meet together. They're given kind of awards or presentations. And that was a Copa America that was nearly, I was just checking, like nearly 50 years ago, right?
Yeah, 40, 46,
So, I
47 years.
mean, just imagine, I mean, just imagine something like this. No, it would be incredible, and it's really never been done, because I think at world level, maybe the closest you have is Pecci, right? Pecci got to the final of the French Open, so didn't win it. but
Yeah.
I mean, Paraguay's never really had like that world leading, world winning athlete. And so, and the Olympics, they got to the silver medal. I mean, no, it would be pandemonium. And obviously if it happened, and this is dreamland, just
Of
imagine what
course.
2030 would be like with
Oh
the
my
with the
God.
opening game. in Paraguay, the defending champions in the opening
Oh
game.
my God.
No,
They have to rename, they're gonna rename street names of these guys.
yeah,
Avenida, Avenida Gustavo Caballero or Calle Gustavo Gomez and stuff like
yeah,
that.
we'll be going to Shopping Alderete.
It's that serious. But no, on a serious note, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think the country is not ready for something like that. I'll tell you that. It was barely ready for a game that just happened a few days ago for a friendly. God knows what it would be if they go even to the semifinals. I mean, even that being the best four in the world is something that not a lot of countries in world football can ever say. So just think about that. But on a serious note, just to finish it off here, and we already ran a really long episode, but I'm really glad we were able to do it because obviously we'll be back after the group stage, whatever happens to them. For those that are listening, the whole world's going to watch Paraguay. I think, it's the first time in 2010 that people are going to watch them in a major tournament. There's going to be people that are going to watch it for the first time ever because 16 years is essentially a generation or maybe even more. What's the one thing that I'll start with Ralph first. Obviously you have your connection to Paraguay, with your wife and your kids and, being in the country for quite some time. I'm sure you had to tell several people what the country is like, but on a strict football perspective, what's the one thing you want to tell people when they are watching Paraguay? And yeah, just what to expect from them.
Oh, that's it. That's a very good question. I mean, I think the main thing to talk about is that Paraguay is a difficult team to play against, right? You always want to be a hard team to play against, difficult to break down. But then I think the other thing is to try and get people to understand like where these players came from. This is not academy football as you know it in the Premier League or in Europe's top leagues, or really a lot of players, because at this World Cup there are so many nationalized players that have come from Europe or academy systems, right? That even make it into other nations. It's like Diego Gomez was kicking that ball around in San Juan Misiones, just like Gustavo Gomez was, and it's a really another world. And so the fact that they're out here playing, especially in that first game in a $5 billion stadium against US players that have come through the US system, which is, a whole different level. Even like the high schools where my kids are going to be going to soon, that those kind of installations are much better than some of the Primera clubs in Paraguay. So trying to point out like some of this difference and that this is where Paraguay gets to level the playing field with the rest of the world, and it's testament to a lot of the players themselves, the footballers themselves, and also Alfaro, what he's been doing with that team. So that's maybe where I'd like to take the conversation if somebody's watching the game with me, especially against the US.
Yeah, I would say none of this would have been possible without Gustavo Alfaro. I mean, he turned it around completely, guys. I mean, I think people are gonna get Alfaro tattoos if this team does well. That's how crazy it's been going. Also with the coach. I mean, obviously we want to see the players stand out, but I do think this team has so much of Alfaro written on it, and for me, he is the big commander in chief, and in this whole situation of getting even Paraguay back to a World Cup. So I would start off with him, with the way that he's been leading this team and the whole strategy behind it, and how he's been getting in everybody's head and making this team believe in what they can do again, even be a winning team again. The mentality is back. So I'm feeling great about this team heading into the World Cup, like I said at the beginning. And I would say just be proud of being Paraguayan, of playing this World Cup again after so long, seeing these guys finally achieve their dreams when maybe a couple of months ago, a year ago, we thought they're probably not going to ever play a World Cup. And look at them now. These guys are going to make their dreams come true. And I would just be proud for them and because they achieved it, and just mainly enjoy this World Cup and be proud of your country. Be proud that your country is playing amongst the best.
I agree. I think it's something at the end, like we are like, it is a small country that it's not really known for a lot of things in the world. And if they are, it's typically the bad stuff. But, being good at football is something that people can feel proud of when if you are Paraguayan. And I think I agree. I think, they're going to be a team that people should not underestimate, that they should also enjoy sort of the passion that they have, similar to South American countries. Obviously, Paraguay is just very unique, especially as a country as it is. that it makes it a lovable country for a lot of people. And hey, if they can enchant the world for 6 weeks in a dream world scenario, then that would put them into relevancy forever. We saw that with teams like Morocco and Croatia and other countries in the past. Football can be that sort of thing that can rejuvenate a country's reputation. We even saw that for countries that win the World Cup, like France and so on. So, I'm not saying that they will do that, but yeah, I agree. I think the world, for those that are listening and watching, I think hopefully that these guys will make you proud as much as we've been proud of these guys. And of course, with Gustavo Alfaro and just all the whole process. So I'm excited, guys. I'm excited, boys. Here we are now, literally talking 72 hours until the opening game against the US. It's been a pleasure to always talk about it with you guys on Guarani Vision, and we'll obviously continue to do it as we always do for this World Cup as we close it off here. Have a great World Cup group stages. Hopefully, we are back to see Paraguay do it again. As we close out this episode, for myself, Roberto Rojas, Fede Perez, Ralph Hanna, thank you so much for listening in. Vamos Paraguay, and we'll speak to you later. See you soon.